Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin and today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is my Paladin build. I've been using this specifically for PvP and for wars, but it also works really well in PvE. The stats, however, and the attributes are specifically designed so that you get certain perks in the PvP environment, and this very basically is my war build. So this is going to be a top secret build which I'm sharing with you guys right now. Now, before we jump into it fully, I just wanted to acknowledge that there is a creator called OmniKev. I will leave his video linked in the description because I actually copied his build essentially for this. I've tweaked it to my own likings and kind of added a few different things, but essentially I followed his stat distribution and it works super well. So if you guys do want to check that video out, I'll leave that link down below for you guys to check out as well. But without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into it here. So obviously, as you guys can see, I'm in heavy armor. I'm in that void armor, and I've also got the great axe and the life staff. So what I'm going to do is go through my armor, my stats and attributes, what the attribute perks I've got are, what abilities and passives I'm using on both of my weapons, and then some general playstyle advice. So we're going to jump straight into it here. As you guys can see off the rip, this is the weapons and armor I'm using. So I'm using the epic quest, the 580 Reformation Great Axe, which you get from doing the quest in Shattered Mountains, or which starts in Shattered Mountains, I should say. And then I'm just using a random life staff, which I've got because I've just been trying this build out for a few days. It's the best one I've found with Blessed on, so it's kind of why I've kept that one there. Then you guys can see that I've got the void armor on. This works specifically well if you've got 2 or more pieces of void armor. So if you don't have the helmet and the chest plate, you can still do this, but you will have to have some lower strength, which I'll get into and show you guys in the attribution phase. But generally, if you can get at least these 2 pieces of void or even more void, then obviously that gives you a huge amount of constitution. So it's going to work really well for this build. Now, as you guys can see, other than that, I'm pretty much using faction gear. I then picked up some better legs and then some more faction gear down here on the boots. Really good. I'm using the infinity crystal to give me a bit of strength, and then using a pristine pearl ring with obviously a little bit of constitution on there, and an earring which is full strength as well. And this one has obviously got mana toast and refreshing toast, which are very good perks. Now looking down here towards the kind of score in terms of armor, you guys will be able to see that I actually have 1,500 physical armor and 1,870 elemental armor. And this is mainly because if you hover over the void, you'll see that they give a huge bonus to elemental as opposed to physical, but they do still give a good amount of physical. That being said, right now I've put physical ward onyx gems on my void armor, and that is because it makes up for the less armor rating in that armor there. It just gives you a little bit of a boost up there into getting into that basically higher category to take less damage overall, because it balances out with the elemental resistance there as well. I haven't actually put onyx gems into the other pieces of armor that I've got right now, but the other thing I have got is thrust ward. That came in the item, so I kept that in, and it actually is very good. And then I've also got in my great axe here the opportunist gem, so you guys will be able to see that that is plus 20% damage against targets with less than 30% health. And essentially I'm going for kills there. I'm dropping down people who get low, and I'm also being able to use my life staff to do a lot of damage but also a lot of healing. And generally this paladin build is capable of getting between 150k and 250k healing per war, and anywhere between 350 and 650k damage per war. So it depends obviously what your role is, kind of where you're playing, what you're actually doing with the build, but it is capable of some very good things. For example, the war where we just won Everfall before this, I managed to get around 500k damage and around 200k healing, which is a very nice split between the both of them, and worked out really well for my team. Ended up coming around 20th, and we had a very strong team. So this build is certainly very good, and survivability is massive. Now if we move here into looking at the attributes, as you guys can see, the first thing probably a lot of people will notice is the constitution is actually fairly low down. The reason that constitution sits at the 110 mark is because we are aiming for 150, which is minus 10% crit damage, and also brings your HP. Currently we're at 1,400. This will bring it up to about 11,300 once you get up to this mark here. The way I do this is by using the stat boost food, which is roasted rabbits with seasoned vegetables, and this gives increased constitution by 40 for 40 minutes. Now during wars, invasions, and of course outpost rush, you need to only pop one of these foods and it will last the entire duration of those events, even persisting through death. So you can just pop one per war or whatever, which makes this build very viable. And when you are in the open world situations, you rarely ever need to get right up to that mark unless you are farming some bosses, which you find particularly difficult. Obviously expeditions as well, really it does help to have that up there, so I would recommend it, but try it without and see how you guys get on. Obviously, then you want to be at 150 focus. Obviously, you get the mana regen rate increase there at first 50. Second 50, you get plus 20 to the mana pool. And the third 50 there is a really important one, which is plus 20% healing output. You're not going to do overly massive amounts of healing, especially compared to someone who's spec traditional paladin or indeed straight healer, because they're going to have upwards of 300 focus. So you're not going to be doing quite as much there, but the aim is survivability. It does enough to keep you alive while you're doing damage with the great axe, and of course it does enough to heal up your team members in between that, which is really, really important. You're looking at 300 to 400 per tick, which is still a very, very decent amount. And with things like your light attacks and also your orb of protection, you're still going to be healing for 200 to 300 with those as well. Then the rest of your points want to be going into strength. Ideally, you do want your strength a little bit higher than this if you can. Just get it as high as you possibly can right now. Obviously staying under that 250 mark because currently there is a bug. But as you'll see, plus 5% to melee light attacks, and at the 150 point mark, you get plus 50% stamina damage from melee weapons, heavy and light attacks equally. So it's really, really good. If you can manage to push that up to 200 with some gear score and stuff, then you will also get plus 10% damage to slowed, stunned or rooted enemies, which can be really, really good, particularly in wars and outpost rush. But anywhere upwards of 150 there is really, really good. And as you guys can see, the damage on my great axe is 1122, which is very nice, and it's hitting for around 1300, 1200-ish. Regular hits 15 to 1600 with a crit, which is very, very good damage considering I have also got a decent amount of proc with the life staff and the healing, and a very good amount of HP. So this build generally is off those three stats. Ideally, you want to be getting, as I say there, the constitution from your gear, and this really does come when you do get that void bent gear, and when you do eventually get all 5 pieces of void, they give 25 constitution each, which means by the time you do actually get the full set there, you'll be on 125 constitution by a base value. So what you could do is throw a few more stat points into there and a few less into strength, and then get a combined food which does some points into constitution, some points into strength, or you could just try and max that one out completely and go for full strength food. Whatever you want to do, whatever's easier for you, but this is just a build as most people will kind of be at a similar stage to me right now, where they're still gearing, still trying to push that 600 gear score, so this is kind of what you want to be aiming for. Next then, we're going to move on to the weapon masteries. So over here, first of all, we'll look at the life staff. The abilities I've got, which is slightly hidden by the camera here, but I'll show you guys on the main screen, are going to be Sacred Ground, it's going to be Orb of Protection, and it's going to be Beacon. These three I have found to be the most beneficial for PvP. I'm not trying to heal people as single target wise, because obviously we've got main healers to do that. I'm more of an off healer slash off tank slash bruiser type role with this build, which is what makes it so good and so versatile. So obviously those three have been the main kind of staples for me. When I got Sacred Ground, I also get both of the upgrades there, as it does allow me to get that stamina and mana 100% regain faster. And of course, with the second upgrade there, allies are in Sacred Ground to take 50% more healing from all healing, which is always really good. I also like to get the perk Absolved here, so that light and heavy attacks of the life staff don't cost mana. That's going to be crucial for using your ranged attacks, particularly when you're attacking enemies from a distance. And I like to go for Blissful Touch here as well, so that you can heal people with 20%. Then I've gone for the Revitalize passive on this side as well. So I don't quite have level 20 on the life staff yet, but if I was going to, I would take another perk from this side, which would be Intensify, which is when you get heavy attacks, increases your healing by 10% for 10 seconds, and you can maximize this by 3 stacks. It's going to be really, really good when you are further back and able to get some of those heals off. Then we're moving on to the Protector side of the tree, where I've gone for Orb of Protection with, of course, all of the upgrades, so that you get recovery from it, you get Orb of Protection, you gain Fortify, and of course then it hits multiple allies in a certain radius. I've then gone for Beacon with that one as well, and upgraded this maximum so that the area of effect is bigger, it lasts longer, and Beacon heals a target, but also applies a 20% haste buff, which is really, really good. Then I've gone for the Bend Light passive here, which is after a dodge, your heals are 20% more effective. And of course, Protector's Touch, which is life staff, light and heavy attack. Grant a 15% fortify for 3 seconds when hitting an enemy. This is really, really good for survivability, particularly when you are a little bit less constitution than some other paladins and bruisers. It's going to be really, really helpful. On this side, again, obviously giving myself 2 extra points, which I would be able to have here. I would maybe either go for, if you have a buff, you heal 10% more, so that's Protector's Strength. I would maybe also go for Balance, which is when you get hit below 50% health, you gain 10% haste for 5 seconds. That's really, really useful. Or I would either go for one of those two, or instead of that, go for buffs you grant last 20% longer, which is Glowing Focus. All 3 of those are very, very good perks, so you could take all 3 of those and not go for the extra one on the healing side, or you could just take 2 of those. It's entirely your choice, but that is generally what I would go for in terms of the life staff. Next then, we're moving on to the Great Axe. The Great Axe is level 20, so I can show you guys the exact build I have for this one here. First of all, the abilities here, I've gone for Charge, I've gone for Reap, and I've gone for Gravity Well. Obviously, Gravity Well for CC. I've gone for Reap, then for a little bit of damage and a bit of catch-up, and of course, Charge for catch-up, movement, and all that kind of good stuff. Charge, we don't upgrade at all, we just leave it basic. It is literally just for utility and catching people up, running away, that kind of thing, repositioning. We then go for Reap. We upgrade this fully. So obviously we upgrade the reach of it, which is now 8 meters with the upgrade. You get healed for 30% of the damage done. And finally, you do a spin attack dealing 115% weapon damage. Really, really good and can really feed into a nice combo of attacks. I do then go for Bloodlust on this side as well, which is the ultimate, which is move 30% faster and deal 15% more damage when looking at a foe within 1.3 meters. Really, really good. Passive-wise, on the Reaper side of the tree, then we go for Light Attacks with the Great Axe, give you 5% extra damage for 3 stacks. Really good. Great Axe attacks on foes below 50% health, gain 10% armor penetrate, so that's both Greed and Death's Embrace. I then go for critical gains, I go for frustration, I go for keen edge, I go for feed, I go for critical condition. So basically that will allow me to do a lot more damage to people below 30% health, heal from any criticals I do, crit more often, and heal for all of the damage I do to anybody below 30% HP. So it's a very, very good build there. Lots of self-sustain paired with the life staff is very, very good. You're doing a high amount of damage, high amount of self-sustain, and you've got a decent amount of catch-up or pullbacks with Reap as well. This then paired with the Mauler side of the tree. First of all, I start with Mauler's Resolve. This is when you get hit whilst holding a Great Axe below 50% HP, you gain more stamina. So obviously you can use the blocking there a lot more effectively. You've then got Enduring Strike, which gives you grit to your heavy attacks, so you can get some really good smashes out on those enemy tanks if they are getting in your way. And of course, then we go for Gravity Well, upgrade this twice so that you get the 10% damage for each foe caught inside it, and the allies caught inside gain 10% Fortify. And then additionally, I like to go for Crowded Protection, which means when you're holding a Great Axe, gain 10% damage absorption when 3 or more enemies are within 4 meters. The reason I go for this one over, of course, the Center Retention perk is because that one increases damage, and this build is all about survivability, annoying the enemy, and being able to stay alive in the mix of it. Particularly for me, because I'm shot calling in wars, this is important, but for anyone in wars, staying alive, causing problems, doing damage consistently, doing healing consistently, you're going to be a pain in the ass regardless of how much damage and how much healing you actually give out. You're going to be a pain for the enemy, which is exactly what you want to be doing. So this, for me, is how I like to run it. By all means, again, tweak it to your choosing, but that is what I've chosen to obviously get the most benefit out of the class that I've chosen to play here. Now, in terms of things like jewels, like I said there, you can go for Onyxes. Onyxes are really, really good. You can also go for some elemental resistance jewels. You could go for some gambit jewels. It's entirely up to you what you prefer, but for me, I think when you've got void armor, the Onyx makes the most sense to make up for the lack of physical resistance on those. And then on the Axe, you can either go for the Opportunist gem like I've gone for, you could go for focus damage, although like this build is meant to, it pulls your strength up, so personally I wouldn't recommend that. But you could also go for something like Rally, which again is what I've got on the life staff, and this one gives plus 15% damage and outgoing healing while at full HP. So again, having this on both may work really, really well, but it's entirely up to you. Do remember that this build is based upon using the buff food, so I will need that 40 extra con from the food to make this build actually work successfully, so that is something important to bear in mind. And if you don't have 2 of the void pieces yet, you might need to put some extra points into constitution and slightly less into strength. Just hopefully you can still hit that 150 mark, as that's the important perk there. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this build and found it useful. If you have, be sure to leave a like on the video down below. If you've got any comments, suggestions, questions, leave those all in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the build, what you'd maybe change, or how you run a similar build if you are running Paladin. And if you've got any questions, like I said there, anything you want to know extra about the build that maybe I've missed in the video, drop that down below as well, as I'll be sure to get back to you guys and let you know the answers. Other than that, if you are new to the channel, make sure you are dropping a subscribe, as I do upload every single day, and I would love to have you here as part of my channel community. Other than that, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Take care and peace.